My name is Kathy Picard, and I'm an advocate for sexual abuse prevention, and I have changed my life as well as other people's lives by telling my story. My sexual abuse happened when I was a young, innocent girl, when I was 7 until I was 17 years old. The things that happened to me are still very vivid in my mind. I was sexually abused by my stepfather. It would happen for 10 years, at least 3 to 4 times a week. He would give me gifts. He would tell me I love you all the time, things that I wasn't getting from my mother. And I just really thought he loved me. I really didn't think what was happening to me, the unsafe touches and things of being touched inappropriately, I didn't really feel like as a young girl that something was being bad was happening to me until I got a little bit older and realized just exactly what I was going through. My stepfather adopted me when I was 4 years old, and I always thought that he was my real father, and I didn't find out that he wasn't my real father until I was 17 years old. Some of the gifts that I would be given is when I was 16 years old, I got a 66 baby blue Mustang. I wish I still had it today, but I would be given that gift, but again, I would have to pay back when he had asked to abuse me or tap me on the shoulder and come downstairs to give him pleasure. So those were some of the things that would happen. In order to get gifts, I would have to get abused. When I was younger, the gifts that I would be given would be things such as candy or even little things such as a doll, to be given these gifts. And because he knew how to make me happy, like he would be the person that would make me the happiest, because I didn't have a mom that would love me the way he did. So one of the first times of being sexually abused was we had lived in a ranch style home, and him tapping me on the shoulder to go downstairs, and it was a brown recliner. And sitting on this brown recliner, him sitting down on it, me in front of him, and him saying, "Can you go down a little bit further? Come on, Kathy, you're such a big girl. You can go down further on me. Go all the way down so that you're sitting on my lap." And then he would say, and I hate these words, but he would always say, "You're such a big girl for doing this." Going through the abuse, it hurt. It really hurt so much that he knew that I was in pain, and he would be giving me beer to drink to ease the pain. And that's how I kind of went through it, is being able to drink with him that he would give to me. But then afterwards, I knew it's all over. I don't have to talk to him or see him for a little while. So my thoughts about actually sharing this story were not even in existence. As many survivors, we don't tell. We don't tell for reasons that we don't think that anything's being done. We don't think that we're going to be believed. We don't think that people are going to put a Band-Aid on us and label us that we're not good enough. So we don't tell. We go through that silence. And until you're out of the home or until you're in a safe environment, then you're able to share your story. And sometimes it may take years. One of the main reasons why I didn't tell anybody was because my stepfather was an auxiliary police officer. So I would get threatened with the gun in the home. "If you tell, I'm going to shoot you." So I didn't tell. And as this little girl, why would I go to the police station and report this when I was a little girl and he was one of them? So I always thought that I'm not going to be, people are going to think that I'm lying, or they're not going to do anything about it. So that was why I didn't tell. But I did tell. At the age of 9 years old, I did tell. I told my mother's mother, my Grammy. And when I told her, she said, "Shh, Kathy, we don't talk about this." So I thought, like he told me, "Be quiet, don't tell." She told me the exact same thing. So I didn't tell after 9 years old until the age of 28. I kept it a secret, as he told me to do. So at the age of 28, that's when I finally told the next person. The next person was my mother's sister, my aunt, who was the mom to me that I didn't have growing up. And when I did tell my aunt, she in fact too said, "Let's not talk about it, Kathy. And if you need to talk about it, you can always come to me." Why did I wait from 9 until 28? I waited because I didn't want to wreck that relationship that I had with my aunt. I felt as though if I told her, our relationship of a mother-daughter relationship would just end. The effects that this abuse had on me was trust issues. I had trust issues like, is my boyfriend or somebody going to cheat on me? So trust issues, not feeling good enough. I was an overgiver. I would give gifts, and I thought that maybe people would like me better if I gave gifts. But as a young girl, I was very shy and quiet, trying to forget about everything that was going on. From when I was older in my teenage life, I worked. I would work 3 jobs just to try to get out of the home, just to, keep working, keep busy, don't tell this secret. As a young girl, I remember selling those Girl Scout cookies so that I could go to Camp Bonnie Bray and Otis. I wanted to keep on being out of the home. But it did play an effect on my school performance, so much that I couldn't concentrate, couldn't think about it. I stayed back in 1st grade because I just couldn't concentrate. I just kept thinking, once I go home from school, more abuse is going to take place. And that's all that was really on my mind. I suffered for about 10 years from this abuse, being very quiet. One of the things that I did, and I found this in other survivors, is I would go through the hurting stage. I pulled out my eyelashes and my eyebrows, and for 2 reasons. 1, because I was very nervous, and 2, because I wanted to look ugly. I figured if I pulled him out, I would look ugly and he would leave me alone. That didn't work. My mother even took me to a dermatologist, and I knew what I was doing, but I just went along with the motions, and I figured, put this ointment on your eyes, they're going to grow back. I knew they weren't going to grow back, but until I was ready for them to grow back. But I went through and I didn't say anything. I do feel like I got gypped out of a childhood. Anybody that's been sexually abused, you're hurting a child's innocence. Like, they'll always remember that. And some people just don't get over it. They go to or suicide or depression or PTSD. Yeah, and I have PTSD, but I feel bad. I'm one of the lucky ones. I consider myself very fortunate to have not gone down those dark roads. But my childhood was a mess. I thought he was my real father, but at the age of 17, my stepfather had come into my room and he wanted to mess around. But I said, no, this has got to stop. And he would beg, one more time, Kathy, please, one more time, and I'll leave you alone. And I said, no. And if you keep on asking, I'm going to tell. And that's when the abuse finally stopped. And after the abuse stopped, he wasn't as nice to me after that. I wouldn't be giving gifts or him being nice or the I love yous. It's funny how a person changes when they're not getting what they want. After that, I still had to stay in the house because really, where's a 17-year-old going to go? You have no place to go. You have no means of money to go to it. Finally, at the age of 22 years old, I moved in with my aunt. And that was so peaceful. I could sleep at night. I could relax. I wasn't getting the taps on the shoulder to go downstairs. And then a few years after that, I lived in a 3-family. And again, it was my own apartment. So it was so relaxing and such joy to know that this is my place. It's a safe place for me, and I'm not going to be touched. I decided to get help, but it wasn't until I was older. And I went through a counselor, and the counselor said, well, he had an idea. He said, what we're going to do is we're going to bring your mother, we're going to bring your stepfather in, and we're going to have a conversation. And I called up my mother from work, and I said, Ma, we're going to sit down with this counselor, and we're going to get help. We're going to talk about the situation. Her response to me was, for what, Kathy? Nothing happened. I gotta go. Click. So then it was years after that I decided to seek counseling on my own. During the counseling sessions, they would ask questions, and it brings you back to those moments of things that took place. And a lot of people say, you can't remember that. Well, yes, I do. One thing that I always remember being sexually abused as a child is going into the bathroom and taking that bubble bath and things that will relax you. And I would always lock the bathroom door. And there was a couple times when my stepfather would take a screwdriver and unlock the door. I'd be sitting in the bathtub and I'd hear the noise and I'd look over and the doorknob was turning. And that one time I remember as clear as day, he came in, put the screwdriver down on the sink, and got into the bathtub with me. And I had a face cloth, and I went to cover myself up, and he goes, "What are you covering yourself up for?" And he just sat in the tub with me. And it was just really awkward, but he made it seem like this is normal. This is something that a father should do with a child. When I was around 12 years old, he would ask me to go and help him to clean at a building, commercial building. And he would be waxing the floors, and I would go there and get $20 and empty waste paper baskets in this office. And when the machine stopped, I knew I would have to go over to him and to perform sexual activities on him. Being around him, I was always nervous, but he would give me that sense of, "I love you so much," that a lot of the times I would feel like he was giving me love, and he was my father. So I was trying to please him, and in more ways than one, but I was trying to make him love me. I guess that's what I want to say, is you want to make him love you and care about you, but you'd also get rewarded. After you made him happy, you would get rewarded. When I was younger, it felt normal, like it was a normal thing, because it happened so often. But as I got older, and when I would get into the having boyfriends, then I would feel dirty about it. You know, it was like a dirty sense, like, oh, I got to do this again, or, you know, it was a dirty sense. And then, you know, as you got even older, then you realize this is not right. He was also physically abusive to us 4 girls growing up in the home. So if something happened in the home, we would have to line up, and he would take off his black belt, and we would get hit with this belt until one of us confessed of what was going on, what was being asked, who did this. And until somebody said, "I did it," the hitting would stop. But he would often say, "I'm not going to hit you as hard." You know, he would tell me that prior to the beating, but I would have to give back being sexually abused by him. One of the dreams is when I got older is I wanted to work for the airlines. And going to Texas to work for American Airlines was a dream of mine. I remember studying at home and then being able to go away, to go down to Florida and have this dream job of being with other people, safer people. And that was a goal. But then once I went down there, I didn't really like the career of doing that. You're like a waitress in the sky. So I ended up coming back home. But again, I felt safer, you know, going to the camps as a little girl, Camp Bonnie Bray. And so just getting out of the home, or even having sleepovers at my friend's home, being able to sleep over their home so that I knew, you know, nothing would take place. When I was 28 years old, telling my aunt, my mother's sister, that I was being sexually abused by my stepfather was really hard. It was hard to tell her what was going on. And then finding out she knew. She knew all along. But everybody was afraid of my stepfather. So nobody really said anything or did anything. But people knew what was happening. And one of the persons that knew, which it happens very often, is my mother. My mother knew what he was doing to me and never told. Never stopped it. In fact, promoted it. You know, go with him to his cleaning job. Go with him to get his beer at the store. When your daughter goes to the store with this man and the store is 10 minutes away and you're home an hour later, wouldn't that bring up thoughts of what happened? What's going on? But nothing was questioned about it. When I knew that people knew and did nothing about it, I got angry. I got very angry about it. My mother would go to the neighbor's home and tell the neighbor, I worked with this neighbor. How can she see me and know what I was going through? And she didn't stop it. She didn't do nothing about it. My mother didn't do nothing about it. You know, people knew. And I would get angry because that's how it was back then. Everybody, it's all silent. Nobody says nothing. I don't want to get involved. And that's not right. You need to get involved. If you see something, say something. You need to stop these young kids from being sexually abused. I really got pissed off. I got pissed off, like, how dare he touch my body and sexually abuse me? How dare you touch me? And knowing that I didn't like it, but I didn't have a voice. I was a young, innocent girl. and you should have never touched me the way you did. So once finding out that I was sexually abused and going through in my adult years, I wanted to do something about it. And I remember seeing this article about priest abuse and, all these priests coming forward. And I would think to myself, it's not just priests, it's people like my stepfather that are abusing people. So there was a phone number that you could call, 1-800-DIAL-A-LAWYER. They still have it today. And I called, and the lawyer said, I told him my story, and he said, sorry, there's nothing you can do, Kathy. The statute of limitations, the time frame has stopped. He's more or less innocent, so you can't do nothing about it. And I got really angry. So angry that I called back because I couldn't believe the answer I was getting. So I called back, I got another attorney, and was told the same thing. So then what I did was I would call the Boston State House, and I wanted to find out, how can I be a part and change these laws? How can a survivor get the justice that they deserve? Finding out there's over 6,000 bills, I had to be that squeaky wheel. You have to stand up for what you believe in. So I did. I would call the reps, the senators. I'd go to the Boston State House. I'd email them. I did it so much. I had one aide tell me, Kathy, you need to stop bothering me. And I said, no, I'm a taxpayer. You need to do your job. And so keep on going and writing to them. And then finally, there was that break. Finally, laws are being looked at to be changed. And it was November 21st, 2006, that they were looking at changing the criminal statute of limitations, meaning that a sexual abuse person that sexually abused would have to do jail time, or they'd have to register as a sex offender. I could not get him on criminal charges because my time had run out, even though they extended that law. They extended that law to the age of 43 years old. A person can go forward to the age of 43. I was too old. So statute of limitations, there's criminal and there's civil. I couldn't do the criminal, so then I fought for the civil. And for the civil, June 26, 2014, that's when it looked really positive, and I was able to go forward and to get him on civil charges, because that extended from 21 years old for a survivor to the age of 53 years old. And I was 53 years old. I was the right age. I could go forward with my case. Thank God that I had my husband, my soulmate. He stood by me. He was there. It was decided that I told the truth and that it was in my favor, that he was found guilty of sexually abusing me. And he denied it and denied it and denied it. So much denying it that after the trial that ended in November, he wrote to the judge and said, I want this to all go away. I never did that. I want it to all go away. So I didn't hear back from the judge until March, and she said, this is so ordered that he was found guilty. And I am still, to this day, so civil case is monetary. Criminal is jail time and register as a sex offender. He did not have to register as a sex offender, didn't have to do any jail time. So it's about the civil. And with the assistance of counsel, I have made, and I will continue to make significant efforts to collect on the judgment that I obtained against. I am still fighting the fight, but now I'm a fighter. So I'm going to keep on going because I deserve that. Why should I have to pay for my own counseling? That's what I think. My advice to other survivors is keep on going, keep on fighting because you deserve it. And it's not your fault. It's never been your fault. Once is too much, because people say, well, she had it 10 years. Once is too much. But keep on going. And those that don't believe you, let them go. You deserve everything in life. You deserve a happy, healthy relationship and nothing less than that. One of the hardest parts of my younger life, when I was 16 years old, is I got pregnant. And that was tough because I made the decision to have an abortion. The reason why I made that decision, because I still don't know, was that my stepfather's child or was it my boyfriend's? And I just don't know. I never had children, but that was tough. That was tough for me to make that decision. And I thought going through the trial that I would find out when he had his vasectomy, but the medical records were gone. One of the healing things that I went through was my husband and I decided to write my story to help other survivors. They may be going through the same thing. In 2017, my book was published, Life with My Idiot Family, a true story of survival, courage, and justice over childhood sexual abuse. And we named it Life with My Idiot Family because my mother and stepfather sometimes called us 4 girls idiots or assholes. That's how we came up with the title. And it took 5 years to write this book, but it was really healing. And my husband really learned a lot about me, things that he never knew, because he never knew my stepfather until the trial. He never met him. After writing our book, I wanted to write a children's book, and I did. And it's I Love You So Much That. It's a kid's book, and my dog Abby, a mini schnauzer, is featured in the book. She even paw signs the book for the kiddos. And it's I love you so much that I ask you to brush your teeth, wear a coat, not to talk to strangers. Your private parts are private is listed in the book. And it gives the reasons of why they should do this. Some schools don't like it that I put the word your private parts are private in the book. That's the biggest part of the book, is your private parts are private. And then I went on the next year and I put the book into a bilingual, so it's actually in Spanish and in English, so it can reach even more people to help in them. And the books are on Amazon, and it's something that I chose to do as part of my legacy that I will leave behind. I often tell survivors, what are you going to leave behind? What are you going to do for yourself to make yourself whole again, to be healthy? Do for you.